Now that we have the foundation of the tagline, let's go to the next step, which is going to be your 30-second elevator pitch or 30-second commercial. Here are the 4 points that we talked about. Let's dig into a couple of examples. As I scoured the web to look for great examples on 30-second elevator pitches, these are the 2 best resources that I found. These aren't necessarily for programmers or IT professionals, but what I found is that we can learn a lot from people outside of our industry. From the Speaking PowerPoint website, the example is, I teach people how to use PowerPoint more effectively in business. That's almost a tagline, right? This is where the 30-second goes further. And this concept is really powerful. It says now, and I'm not sure I would put now in there. For instance, and I like the phrase for example, and then you launch into something more substantial. The reason why I love for instance or for example is because it sets you up to start telling a story. It's what I call a mini story, the problem, action, result. What we're doing here is we're saying, hey, here's what I do, that first sentence or your tagline, and then the mini story comes in and backs it up with examples. It backs it up with data. It backs it up with results. A big part of the PAR statement is ending it with the results. What does this really mean? Here's another example. The advice here was to start your 30-second pitch with a story. So this pitch says, do you remember about 10 years ago when the Space Shuttle Columbia was destroyed on re-entry? It turns out, and then you share stuff that you know now that they didn't know back then. I find it intriguing that the person who put this together says, but the PowerPoint slides they used were a complete mess and no one understood the danger. They're tying a problem statement in back to what their proficiency and skill set is. And then they go on to say, that's what I do. Isn't that a powerful statement with the story behind it? I train people how to make sure their PowerPoint slides aren't a complete disaster. And in that case, it was literally a complete disaster. The imagery of that story is so powerful. I know sometimes as a programmer, you don't feel like anything you do is really impacting the world or changing or touching people's lives. I challenge you to think about what you really are doing and the impact that you really are having on humanity or your customers, and see if you might be able to put together something as impactful as this. The idea here is start it out with a story and have that story support the that's what I do statement.